Hey guys, it's Dr. Kresimir here. I'm a chiropractor in London, Ontario, and here are 3 exercises to master if hip pain is a problem. Now, before I get started, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number 1, if anything during this video hurts, then please stop and go see somebody about your hip. Hips can be really complicated. There's a lot of potential issues that can occur. The purpose of this video is to show you what normal active range of motion looks like at a hip, ways that you can test it at home, and more importantly than the actual exercises, which I believe will be helpful, but the idea of knowing how to approach your hip, I think will be more beneficial. So I'm gonna be moving the phone, so I'm really sorry if it's jarring. It's just me here recording, so I'm gonna position everything so you can see down a little bit more, and that will give you a better understanding of what it is that we're looking at. So we're gonna be looking at my right hip, which is right here, okay? So step number 1, we're gonna test the ranges of motion. So the first one is flexion. So you should be able to bring your hip up by yourself without touching it, and the angle to the floor, your knee should be close to your chest. It shouldn't hurt. If there's any pain or tenderness, that is a potential concern. So if you get any of that, make sure you contact your healthcare provider, okay? So this is hip flexion. The next one is going to be, so again, you want to make sure that your low back is staying on the ground and your opposite leg is straight. You don't want to, because if you pull up, then eventually what will happen is this other leg will come up, okay? So you want it to be nice and flat, and you actually want to test that range of motion. The next one is abduction. So keeping my spine straight, I don't want to be bending my body this way, but keeping my spine straight, I'm going to be bringing my leg out. Should be able to get about there. The other one is adduction. You want to cross your leg over, okay? And the last one before we get into the more complicated ones is you're going to be on your back. Again, I'm looking at my right hip. Make sure that you are supporting your head, and the last one is going to be you're lifting your leg up like this, okay? So those are the major ranges of motion. If you're missing some of those are typically bad to be missing. Those are the last ones to go away, okay? The ones that are the first to go away are what's called internal and external rotation. So again, I'm going to be looking at my right leg. My right leg's gone up. I should be able to, again, I don't want to be rolling my body off of the thing. I want to keep my hip pressed, but I should be able to externally rotate my hip and internally rotate my hip. So again, you want to have a good sizable range of motion in all those areas. The other thing that you want to be able to do is you want to be able to fully squat. So you can see my back is straight, my ankles are, and my heels are all the way down on the ground. So those are the 3 tests. Those are all the active ranges of motion that you should be able to do. If you're unable to do one of those, that could be, again, there's many reasons why some of this could be a problem, but that is typically an indicator that there's an issue with your hip. Now let's get into the exercises. There's 3 things that we want to do when we're trying to fix the soft tissues with your hip. The first one is we got to get rid of the scar tissue. We spend a tremendous amount of time in a sitting position, which means that the muscles at the front of our hip, the hip flexors, become short and weak, and these ones become stretched and weak at the back. So the first exercise that I'm going to show you requires that you have a lacrosse ball. I have a baseball here. I prefer a lacrosse ball because it's rubber. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be finding that hip flexor, and we're going to be stripping some of the scar tissue out of it, okay? So you're going to lay down on the ground, and what you're going to do is you're going to find that pointer in your hip. You're going to take your ball, and you're going to move just inside of that hip pointer, and you're going to provide and put some pressure on there, okay? You can see it hurts for me, but I'm able to carry a normal conversation. You can move the ball down a little bit or up a little bit, but the point is to really get in that hip flexor. If that's too easy, you can do the exact same thing, where we're going to turn around and use our body weight to push down on it, okay? So that's exercise number 1. And the goal of that exercise is to strip away the scar tissue. Now that we're starting to strip away the scar tissue, we want to be able to put some length in that part of our hip. So I'm going to show you the second exercise. I'm going to raise the phone a little bit because I think it'll be better. I am almost 100% positive that you've seen this exercise. It's the hip opener. So again, I'm going to be focusing on my right hip. It's the exercise that looks like this, 90-90. And you're going to want to put a nice stretch in your quad and into your hip as well. Now there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number 1 is you don't want to have everything loose. Okay, when I see a lot of people try this exercise, what ends up happening is their glutes are unflexed, their thigh is loose, their abs are loose, and what happens is you get this rocking motion where we're really leaning forward to try to get a good stretch in here, which ends up arching our back and putting too much pressure on the low back. If you flex your glutes, keep your spine nice and neutral, you don't need to rock forward very far in order to get a stretch in there. Okay, so when you feel that stretch, hold it for 30 to 40 seconds, and then rest 20 seconds, and then repeat that cycle 8 times. And the last one that I'm going to show you, now that we're working on stretching and stripping the scar tissue out of here, is we need to do some counter work with the opposing muscle. So the opposite to flexing your hip is extending your hip, which is why we have our glutes. So when we're going to be activating our glutes, we're going to be down on our back. We're going to have our heels shoulder width apart, and we want your heels to be as close to your butt as possible. And now what's going to happen is I'm just going to lift my pelvis up and squeeze my glutes. Okay, so you don't want to do this too fast. You want to do this nice and slow, and you want to squeeze at the top, making sure that your weight is on your heels, and we should be able to start to awaken the glutes and help balance out your hips. If you have any comments or questions, or if I didn't explain anything clearly, which has been bound to happen or known to happen before, comment below. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you guys soon.